Turkey, a bulwark of stability on the edge of Europe. A buffer against the chaos of the Middle East. But there's a storm brewing. The violence that surrounds this country is now beginning to be felt here as well.
Now Turkey is suffering from terrorism attack because of Syria. Because terrorists, both PKK and ISIS, are using Syria, uncontrollable area, for practicing terrorism attacks.
In the run-up to Sunday's election, there have been deadly bombings, blamed variously on Islamic State or on the Kurdish militant group, the PKK. President Erdogan's message is this: only a strong majority for his party can hold this country together.
For such attacks, like terrorist attacks, the people of this country should unite together. I think Erdogan is an important figure to unite this nation.
Some people have been suggesting that it might have been the government itself that was behind the attack in Ankara. What do you think about that?
I think it's really dangerous to play that sectarian politics and to use the language of provocation.
In this atmosphere of mutual suspicion, Turkey is once again at war with the Kurds, a war fueled by the conflict in Syria. In the Kurdish-dominated east, Turkish jets are bombing PKK targets in response to attacks by the Kurdish militants. But now a new threat has injected itself into this toxic conflict: Islamic State. On a residential street in the city of Diyarbakir, we arrived as security forces carried out a raid on an IS safe house. This was more a battle than a shootout. Police using armoured vehicles and heavy caliber weapons. They've implanted IS into our midst, this man told me. They're only conducting this operation now because of the election, he said. And then
they're trying to use IS to put pressure on Kurdish people.
Boom, boom, boom. That was an explosion. That was an explosion just now. There's a car reversing out of the area. What they're saying is that the building where the standoff happened might have been booby-trapped. 2 policemen were killed, as well as 7 militants. Turkey has long allowed Islamic State fighters to use its territory to cross into Syria. There is a logic to this. IS oppose the Syrian regime. IS are also a barrier to Kurdish expansion. But now some of those IS fighters are coming back. In places, eastern Turkey looks like a country at war. But these soldiers are not here because of the threat from Islamic State. They're here because Kurdish militants have taken over swathes of territory, turning whole neighborhoods into so-called autonomous zones. This is essentially a rebel zone, an area that's not under the control of the Turkish security forces, under the control of rebel youths affiliated to the Kurdish militants. This is the town of Silvan. They've strung up tarpaulins to shield themselves from the view of army snipers. There are signs here of recent heavy battles, pockmarked buildings and defensive barricades. The group's leaders are shy of the cameras. They didn't want us to film their weapons, mostly automatic rifles, no match for the Turkish military.
They'll be coming for us. They'll use tanks and mortars. We're ready. They want to clear everyone out of this neighborhood, then hit it with airstrikes.
Emboldened by their fellow Kurds in Syria, who've carved out a vast territory along Turkey's southern border, these Marxist guerrillas now sense, perhaps, new momentum in their decades-old struggle.
We shall overcome and we will resist to the end. We want to govern ourselves. We can take the violence of the state no longer.
The people who are digging these trenches don't want to be identified. They're all covering up their faces. These are young, armed men who are affiliated with the PKK, the Kurdish rebel group. And one thing's for sure, this is now a no-go area for the Turkish state. Not everyone here wants to pick a fight with Turkey's powerful army. These women told us all they want is peace, but it may be too late for that. In his office, the local head of President Erdogan's AK party showed me the bullet holes where PKK militants fired at his window. As Kurdish fighters grow in strength across the border in Syria, Mohammed Akar fears this rebellion could become a real threat to the Turkish state.
Doğrusu Türkiye'nin aleyhine o coğrafya kullanılabilir diye Türkiye'nin endişesi var. Orası kullanılarak PKK'nin oradan Türkiye'ye sızması ve Türkiye içerisinde operasyonlar gerçekleştirmesi kuşkusu, kaygısı var. Yoksa oradaki Kürtler bir tehdit unsuru değildir.
President Erdogan has presided over a decade of stability in Turkey. Sunday's election is essentially a rerun. In June, his AK party failed to get a majority. His critics accuse him of becoming increasingly authoritarian. Over the past few weeks, many towns in the east have been under curfew. In Diyarbakır's old town, we found people venturing out for the first time after special forces were sent in to quell clashes between Kurdish youths and the police. Well, all of this commotion is because there's a food distribution here. They're handing out supplies to people who were affected by the clashes that happened in these narrow alleyways just a few days ago. All of this is organised by a pro-Kurdish opposition party, which is capitalising on the anger among people who were prevented from getting to work or even to the shops. We had nothing to eat or drink, this woman says. She told me her daughter had gone to the mountains, a euphemism for joining the PKK. President Erdogan came to power as a champion of the oppressed, including the Kurds. His base is among religious conservatives and Islamists, empowering people who once felt marginalised by Turkey's secular, pro-European elite. Now there are those who feel the pendulum has swung too far in the other direction. In 2012, Gurbuz Çapan was one of dozens of people implicated in a plot to overthrow the government. He insists he supports change only at the ballot box, but he says Turkey faces a stark choice.
Yani bizim kıblegahımız, bizim yönümüz, bizim hedefimiz Batı Avrupa'nın değerleridir. Başka grubun işte AKP'lerin veya diğer grupların da hedefi doğuya götürmektir. Yani o ikiyüzlülükleri bu yüzden yani hem batıdan besleniyorlar hem doğunun yani o kötü IŞİD hareketini desteklemeye kadar gittiler.
This election is essentially a referendum on the limits of President Erdogan's power. Strong leadership has kept Turkey stable amid the chaos of the Middle East. But Erdogan's opponents believe that by giving space to Islamic State, by re-engaging in conflict with the Kurds, he's playing with fire.